Good morning, everyone. Today is Saturday, and this will be released on Tuesday. I'm also just getting up again. But I realized with the last video that I had skipped a portion of the actual business plan to go directly into competitive analysis, when in reality, we're working on the industry analysis this week. I got together my title page, the whole Southern Oregon Card Emporium. So, name of the fake business is on there already, as well as a description of the business, which we'll pass over with the competitive analysis when we get to it. But something I was trying to drive to in the last video that was unfortunately left a little incomplete was the fact that we are trying to make sure that our store is unique in the fact that you can come in, not only purchase your Pokemon cards, but purchase a variety of them. So you won't just have like the most recent sets. Like, technically, if you were to go to the store right now, you walk into the store, if there's Pokemon cards, because I've also gone to the outside world and slim pickings out there. But if you went to a Pokemon store right now, any store that sold Pokemon cards, whether it's a big box or a small store, normally you're gonna find your smaller, your most recent sets. So you're gonna find, Silver Tempest, Astral Radiance. If you're lucky, Brilliant Stars is still out there. Some people were just sharing the news that apparently Evolving Skies Elite Trainer boxes were re-released. I think it was just like a trickle down of however many might have been in stock with a distributor site at some point, but they just trickle down into the stores, which is great for everyone because that means that more people are able to get the product. Obviously, that does mean that there's probably going to be a reflection in price within the Elite Trainer box market, so we'll have to see that. I haven't checked it out yet. But basically, being that if you go to a regular store, you're only going to find the regular sets that are standard, within the range of maybe 5 or 4 sets if you're lucky. And then occasionally, if the store overpriced, usually, smaller stores are the ones that end up having the older stuff, but it'll be slightly overpriced even for being modern. Like, I remember there was a local store here in the area that used to sell like these Shining Fates Elite Trainer boxes when, granted, it was 2021. It was the boom of everything Pokemon, and also the fact was that the demand was there, but the supply wasn't there, keeping pace with the amount of demand. So stores, technically, due to that very basic concept, were able to like skyrocket their prices because technically what the market demands when demand goes higher is the fact that you do have to increase your prices so that you can meet that exact demand, so that there is no more demand than there is supply. But at the same time, that reflects to itself to the buyers, by being like that Elite Trainer box was like $100, and then Celebrations, same thing, they were overpricing those. But the fact is that demand was pushing those prices up, and so technically, if you were the store that decided, hey, I'm still going to sell at MSRP, you were the first one to be sold out, and that meant that you couldn't enjoy the additional profits that could come from that opportunity. So I'm not necessarily for or against, it's just the reality of things, but it's usually the small stores that would have like the specialty products left over. Like, I think Crown Zenith, they're still overpricing them, which again, not nice, but at the same time, their store, their policies. But that just still is that my store, while having like the same old 5-6 sets that are standard, my goal is to have a range of product, which sort of put me in the industry of also a used rare collector items, which has like a NAICS code of like 459, 510. There is no actual IBIS World report on this particular number, which is kind of frustrating. So I'm only sticking to the hobby toy game retailers. But either way, there are two intersecting target markets, which you'll have to dig into when it's time to do that. But it'll be fun. So basically, it'll have the unique appeal of having like a range of sets for both the collector and the player and the newbie that comes in through the door and says, hey, you know what, like, I heard of this hobby, what do you recommend? And then usually, the store person's all like, hey, yeah, perfect. I guess you know, if you wanted a lot of pulls, I would be like Celebration's your bet. You know, if it was more recent when it was a little more affordable. Like Celebration's your bet. You're gonna get like a whole bunch of pulls. Crown Zenith is actually also the same, and plus they're reprints of the prior sets that were coming out, and so they're gonna have like the really great art if you're able to pull like some really good cards from it. And then it's like, but if you're looking at something historically amazing, there's Hidden Fates, there's Shining Legends. Actually, that right there, boop, right there. That Shining Legends Marshadow box on the opposite side, it has a Pikachu box, so I think they each came with like 3 packs as well. But they're the ones I got on clearance at Walmart years ago when you know, they were trying to get rid of Shining Legends. It was so overstocked, and I think I ended up getting them for like $20 for 2 boxes or less, I forget. But that was a random trip when I was like driving, I was gonna say down to up to Woodburn to visit family, so that was just a part of a fun adventure. But anyway, so I needed to then be able to describe, when we look at an industry analysis at least, you have to be able to describe the potential size of the market that exists, whether it's mature or it's not. And I'm not talking like, haha, you said fart. No, we're talking mature, like the maturity of the hobby, the maturity and the length of the entire story that is that entire like industry. And the trading card hobby and toy market has been, you know, on for a very long time. You can look at Mattel, you could look at Hasbro, you can look at different toy stores, and I think that's the main thing that carries the maturity of the entire hobby. Even though the trading card game, like Pokemon wise, and this is where you also have to split, because I have to be able to look at both the market as a whole, because this is the realm I'm gonna be swimming in, you know, amongst the whales and the sharks, and I'm just a little goldfish that's like whoop, 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 whoop. But either way, I have to be able to look at the entire ocean and be like, yeah, there are all these fish, and they're very similar for all of these reasons. And then this little fish, like, despite being the tiny fish that it is, what makes it unique? Who would be interested in this particular fish? And also, what brings that particular market of the people who want the little fish to want to come here? So I had to figure out the industry analysis, and little did I know that the revenue of the industry was actually estimated to be $24.3 billion on an annual basis. And while there are not, I wish I printed out the Ibis World thing now, but while there are not any like harsh, like we're not looking at like trends that are like very aggressive where it's like we're seeing this incredible growth. I did notice that during the years of 2020 to 2021, obviously there was an unnatural increase, which is something that I wanted to note from my other classmates too when they were looking at their trend lines. But that's neither here nor there. I'm able to recognize the fact that Pokemon was became a lot more popular, as well as other trading card games, hobbies, toys. They became really popular during that COVID boom when everyone was stuck home, and you know, you couldn't go outside, you couldn't really go do like your extracurriculars and hang out with people, so you instead leaned into a hobby, which increased the revenue for said hobbies like by a drastic percentage. And looking at the range between 2017 to 2022, so you know, they're looking at a very wide range despite there being outliers. This meant an overall, I think it was like a 3.4% increase to the entire revenue line, which is how they were looking at things, which meant that after that, like between 2022 to 2027, we're looking at kind of stagnant growth. I think there was growth estimated in the entire market of 0.4%. So 0.4% of 24 billion. I mean, yes, it's still 24 billion, and that means that people, like, this isn't a bad thing. It meant that despite like things slowing down just a tad, right? Yeah, so it's in, whoa, no, that's 40%. Ha ha ha. So it's an extra almost $1 billion. It's 0.972 of 24.3. So yeah, it's a whole almost $1 billion that are going to be incoming into the market, you know, spending revenue dollars coming in between 2022 and 2027, which means that trading card games, hobbies, all these toys and things aren't going to be like fading off. They're not something that is just going to stop. And so Doggo Adventures. I'll have to figure out what it's all about. But it's that sort of positive, like, for me, that's a positive. In the face of a recession, in the face of economic uncertainty, people are still able to say, you know what, I'm not going to be changing the way that I'm purchasing these items over time. I mean, that's granted an estimation, but it's still an estimation that things won't be changing, and that while, you know, maybe 24.3 billion is actually not a lot of money, you know, when you look at the entire United States, it's still a good fraction of a person's discretionary income that they don't have to be spending. Because, again, we have to realize that, sorry, I pulled this and it's right here, but we have to realize that cards like these, any of these products, like whether it's a pack, elite trainer box, booster box, trainer deck, playmats, we're looking at binders, we're looking at, you know, the secondary market type things, all of it is a luxury item. None of these things are things that I need to survive. Do I want them? Of course I do. Do I want to keep buying more? Of course I do. Will I keep buying them? Yes. Because to me, it does not matter. Honestly, for me personally, it does not matter if Pokemon says, oh, we're going to raise our MSRP of our boxes to $164. That's great. I don't care. Someone else, though, you know, and this is where those, this market analysis overall is going to come in really handy, is because you have to learn who these prices really affect. Because the stagnant growth just means that the people who are past a certain income level will be like, yeah, that's fine, I'm just going to keep buying them. If anything, I'm just going to buy less, but you know, the price increases, so we're dealing with inflation, revenues are increasing a little, so maybe actually sales taper off just a tad, despite revenues going up a bit, because you see price escalations over time. That's fine. But it means that somewhere along that line of revenue, so if we have this entire line of revenue, I know that we're working with imaginary space here, but if we have this entire line of revenue, and say the point of revenue for Pokemon buying and being comfortable with Pokemon buying is here and over, cool. Pokemon raises their price from here to say here, it means that whoever lives within this range might no longer be comfortable spending the same $120, $40 for a booster box. I don't have booster boxes out here. But for a booster box that they used to be comfortable doing. So instead, maybe they settle out and they're like, you know what, I'm either going to push and get that booster box, in which case they're a part of those revenues, cool beans, or they decide, you know what, I'm just going to get singles. I'm just going to, you know, buy an elite trainer box and a couple singles, which cool. That means that on the primary market, they're lessening their purchases by, you know, 50-60%, getting that elite trainer box. And the secondary market is going to enjoy their boost in sales because he's buying single cards, which is great. But you also have to consider the fact that single cards do have to come from some of these sealed items, which means someone else is still spending the money to buy a sealed product, to open it, to crack it open and be like, okay, cool, I got 7 hyper rare birds, I have, I don't know, 5 secret rare ultra balls, and so on, so on, so on. I have these many singles, cool beans. I've deconstructed my product. I'm gonna sell the code cards, make the money off the code cards. I'm gonna sort out my bulk, because just in case, you know, there's a special card like, you know, Joltik and Phantom Forces, where it was like Night March, and so it wasn't just like 3-cent bulk, it was 40-cent bulk, and so you could sell an entire playset for like almost $2. But and at the end of the day, someone is still spending that money, and whether or not they then at that level decide, okay, well, you know, the single market is actually increasing, like all of a sudden, like it doesn't make sense. So, well, the thing is, it does make sense, because these people are no longer buying sealed product. These people are no longer banking on the mystery box. You know, mystery box, what could be in there? That's me. I like the mystery box concept, and granted, I should buy singles. It's more efficient, it's a lot, you know, you're better with your money when you buy the singles, but I like the possibility that it could have a Charizard, you know, a special Charizard. But the point is that whether or not where people are buying from the market, someone is still going to spend the money, someone's still going to see the reflection in, okay, well, now there's a boost in singles, I have to be prepared for this, I'm going to buy an extra 10 cases, right? Because their only job is to sell singles, and maybe they also want to sell some sealed product, and maybe they also want to keep some to sit and mature over time. Cool beans. But either way, I think that's where I see that balance. I think that's where I see that whole, yeah, the the hobby, toy, and card game type thing isn't gonna dip, because why would it dip? The demand is there. I mean, we are in a recession. We are in a time where people do have some insecurity of, whether or not they'll have that extra bit of money to do whatever fun thing they used to be able to do, but no longer can, because either hours are cut, layoffs are happening, in the software, digital industry, but there are other jobs that are still thriving. And so you have this give and take. And by the way, sorry, random fact or random thing that I noticed this week, in particular, the stock market has been going up, which I was in utter complete awe and kind of confusion, because it's like, wait, I thought we were in a recession. I thought things were not great. Like, I know that, like, I don't know, I had my money in since, like, I want to say September, and I let it ride, and I let it keep riding, and then it was starting to get to December, and then I was like, okay, you're gonna start getting put on the insider trading list, because we're gonna start doing financials, and that means that you won't be able to buy or sell. And it's like, yeah, it's been going down for a while. And then there was a small uptick right before the the cutoff date, and so I sold it all. I was just like, you know what, I'd rather have it in my pocket. Right now we're seeing the trend that the stock market keeps going down here and there, and honestly, this money has already lost, I think by that point, like 20%. I'd rather not lose an extra 10% or another 20% past that. Just get it out. Cool. So now I have it on hand, just in case of an emergency or this or that. And then all of January, I looked at the stock for Lithia in particular, because that's one of the local major companies we have here in Medford, like the Fortune 500, 200 number something. Anyway, the point is that I see their stock, and they started off January 3rd, I think, at like $200.58. Correct me if I'm wrong. Their information's on Yahoo Finance, under historicals. But then we check, like, yesterday, because February 3rd, 298. The economy is bad, and the stock goes up $98 in 31 days. This isn't GameStop. It's silly. It's like, okay, this makes sense. I don't know how to make sense of that stuff yet, and that's still something I'm trying to learn. And my boss is actually incredibly smart with that type of thing, where he's able to recognize, like, the actual Greek symbols and the reflection, like, everything that goes into making that stock price what it is, because it's not guesswork. It really isn't. It's like the share repurchases and the stance of the company, and whether or not we're investing in acquisitions, and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, maybe it's in true me type of fashion, but I try to be informed. I try to stay informed and learn and be comfortable with the idea that, things are more complicated than they seem sometimes. But I like to be optimistic that I might learn a lot more as I go. But anyway, we know the industry. We know that the size and the trend, while it might be a little stagnant for a while, it's still, it's steady. It's not something that I have to be like, oh my god, it's bearish, people are not playing Pokemon anymore. Actually, if you've been paying attention to regional events, they have been selling out. They've been filling all of the seats at the master level. At seniors and juniors, they're still a little slow, but that's just how it's been since, I think, the beginning of time. Because you have to consider the fact that seniors, and masters, such as myself, and anyone else that's over the age, I think, of 16, I'm forgetting. But if you're over the age of 16, you most likely at this point have a job, especially nowadays, I think. You're working at McDonald's, or you're working at Big Lots, or you're working at Wendy's, or you're working wherever, or you have your adult job now, which is super good. Congrats to you. Great job. But the fact is, you have the funds to be able to make the trips to wherever you need to go to. You most likely have a mode of transportation, or can afford to rent or, get a ticket to fly there. And even more so, I really believe that people, from this generation are a lot more willing to spend their money if it's on travel, if it's on exploring the world as, you know, this entire thing and experiences, which I'm all for, because without experiences, I don't know. I feel like life could be really boring, and granted, I also like boring, but we're here. So, anyway, the point is that regional events have been doing well, and so that you don't see that taper off of things, and so you really see either that stagnation, or if you're in the Pokemon world, it just seems really positive. Like, people are really in it for the game, they're in it to do the travel, they're in it to do all of the crazy things that they do. So, cool. Size, maturity, and the trend of the industry, which is, I think, pretty good, despite everything. Let me see if there were... Oh yeah, so the competition stands, another fun little fact, the competition stands, as it stands right now, is made up of an estimated 18,233 businesses within the US. And I'm guessing it's the entire US, not just continental. But, oh yeah, the person that gets credit for all of these little factoids is actually Tyler, which did a report for Ibis World, which if you're a business student, you most likely know of. Otherwise, it's just like a very scholarly source where you get to cite their work to do your business plan. Boop. I'm so tired, guys. I was at the gym until like 1 a.m. It was fun because you get to do all these crazy things and you get to throw the tire, and I threw the tire because I could throw the tire now. Anyway, that's just separate, but excited. Anyway, but then the next question within this little you gotta figure out stuff is the seasonality and the sensitivity of the industry to the economic cycle. So these are two separate things. The seasonality of it, I was trying to figure out, and you know, within the whole Ibis world, you're able to go clickety clackety, and you look at the seasonality, and you're like, when are sales most high, or you know, stuff like that. And then you're able to see that the actual seasonality of this particular industry is quarter four, which comes to no one's surprise because quarter four is actually that quarter between, I think, October, November, December. And so Halloween, where Pokemon, Pokemon does that, like this year they did that Halloween set, which, I mean, not super popular, but obviously the bag sold out. And I'm saying not super popular in the fact that in the secondary market, granted some people wanted them, but these aren't cards that are going to be worth a lot of money. They're cards that are like, hey, like this is a particularly Halloween-y special time, and so there we go. Now it has a little pumpkin logo on the card. Good stuff. It's actually really good for businesses too because they're able to give like this Pokemon type of product away if you decided to give it away. Totally up to people, obviously. But then there's November. November is usually when specialty sets are released, or at least that I can remember. Crown Zenith was a weird one for coming out in January, like all of a sudden, like boop. But it's also, in my mind, because they're switching over to the Millennium Print Group, and it's also because we're switching to the gray cards that are going to be coming out with the start of Scarlet and Violet. So, cool beans. And then December. I don't know what happens in December. Just kidding. It's Christmas. It's holiday time. It's the time where everyone's buying all these presents. And so you want to buy, you know, the singles for the kids in your family. Or you buy them the super amazing premium collection that tends to come out around December time. Because it's popular. It comes with all these packs. And as a parent, you don't know any better other than it says Pokemon on it. And it has a Pikachu most likely. So you spend the money. It's what people do. It's the kind of society we have where, you know, it's materialistic, but honestly, who's complaining? Because it's a game, it's a hobby, and if it makes you happy, that's what it's here for. So, quarter four seems to be the natural spike of the entire, fiscal year. But I'd also like to add the addendum that both in Magic and Pokemon, and, you know, I guess D&D too, but Hasbro, we'll talk about Hasbro for a second. Hasbro has the tendency to to also release things on a month-by-month basis, and so you're almost seeing like maybe every 2 or 3 months a new set will release. In D&D, I think you get a book or two a year. Sometimes you get a specialty book, and so they're able to maintain a consistent like flow of revenue, and it's, yeah, people buy more during Christmas, but that's just the natural bump in the stats of like unnatural revenue that just comes to exist because it's Christmas, and so you want presents under the tree. But other than that, Pokemon and Magic and D&D aren't really deterring from this consistent line of items being released. Like Pokemon has at least 4 or 5 major sets come out through the year, 1 or 2 small sets, and then I think on a yearly basis now they do McDonald's Pokemon promos every single year during the summer, and that's almost like an unnatural boost that they give themselves, but it's almost like to remind kids once summer break starts that, hey, it's summer break, get Pokemon cards. Like during the 25th anniversary, they released all of these, like at least 5 series. Like they released like waves of it. So there was like wave 1 product, wave 2, 3, 4, 5, and you would get different items in each one. So maybe for the first one you got a deck box, the second one you had stickers, the third one you had bigger stickers, the fourth one you had a frame for a Pokemon card, and I forgot the last one. But the point is that they're consistently putting the money into keeping themselves relevant year round. It's never just like that whole, yeah, you know what, we're releasing this one really amazing toy at the end of the year and that's our major money maker and that's how it is. It's really not like that at all. And Pokemon also is able to maintain that by, you know, being the multimedia franchise giant that they are, because they're able to, you know, continue being relevant on television. They're continuing to be relevant in video games where they release, you know, like 1 or 2 every few years. But then we're not only including that video game experience, we're including the video game experience as well, mixed with the fact that the next set is now going to be a reflection of that game that people have been excited to play all this time. Well, cool beans, now you can get that Fuecoco in a card, and the evolution, and an ultra rare version of its, you know, greatest evolution. Like, oh geez, what the heck? And so then they just mix up so many things, and there's clothes, and there's art, and there's music. Heck, in 2025 they included like how many artists to make Pokemon themed music entirely just to celebrate Pokemon as a whole. They made major spectacles of like drones, you know, doing the light shows and things like that. Honestly, it was spectacular. And then of course we can't forget the fact that they also boost sales during the Macy's, you know, parade with that giant Pikachu that hasn't left since like the early 2000s or earlier. So Pokemon puts in the work to maintain its relevance throughout the year so that, you know, sales are almost consistent because they just are. And then, oh, how could we forget regionals and also Worlds? Worlds is actually something that ends up happening in August, and I truly believe that it's due to the fact that you have this like increase of sales during the winter, and you know, the fall people are prepping for the start of League, and or they're sharing in that new set that just came out, because it almost always comes out in November or October. And then maybe things taper off because, you know, there's less and less regionals and we're at the very end, so I feel like maybe that summer area is maybe where their sales either just like beep, 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 but they're able to boost sales and increase like revenue like via, you know, you have your streaming services now too, because Pokemon has an official like Twitch and, you know, YouTube, and they're able to do all of these like major events and charge people for entrances, for entrance fee, for like product that they sell at the Pokemon Center at these major like worlds places. And I haven't actually started to dig. I just realized they make money off of those sales from the World Championship participants as well as the actual World Championship spectators. And so that would be very interesting to dig into. I will write that one down. But yeah. So basically we have this almost negation of the seasonality. If they can fight it off in any way, which is how they practically do it this entire time year round, it's amazing. And then, you know, is it sensitive to the economic cycle? Yeah, you know, tax season happens, and I know like people who just buy cases upon cases of product. And why? Because they got their tax refund. You know, they got their money back that they've been waiting on because, you know, they're able to get a refund and stuff. Does Pokemon suffer during an economic cycle? Well, from personal experience, I'd say it depends. It depends on the, I forgot what it was called. But you know, that like that flexibility, are you price sensitive or blah blah blah. Some people are, because, you know, they're dealing with things in the face of a recession and you gotta make rent, you gotta, you know, buy food, get gas, and that every day of the week will win over a Pokemon pack. One would hope. I've made bad decisions before too. So maybe they still get my money. It's fine. But the point is that in that case, yes, they are technically sensitive to the economic cycle and whether or not people have the funds to purchase what they need to be purchasing, because, you know, luxury goods don't win over basic goods that you need. So, oh, this is going to be the fun one. This is the area where I still need to do just a teensy bit more research, and I need to do research on all 6 of these fronts, which I'll just name off: technological, sociological, socio-cultural forces, economic condition, political factors, environmental forces, and legal and regulatory factors. And we have to be discussing the driving forces in the macro environmental environment. So, the one area that I did kind of explore is that for the industry itself, technology just, while it does come in, it's sort of at that medium rate that it comes in at, because it's not, yeah, you can have automatic salespeople, and sure, maybe robots could run leagues someday, and that would be cool, but I think the thing that makes them special is the fact that a league leader, a Pokemon professor, is able to connect with their players, and the players aren't robots. The players are children, and the players are teenagers, and the players are adults and parents who work just as long as you do, if not, you know, have busier lives where they're involved in clubs and this or that, and they have activities, because everyone strives to have a life, while also maintaining the fact that they're, you know, Pokemon aficionados. But the technological front, really, the way that I sort of understood it was that as a business, you might actually just learn to adapt with these technological fronts that come to you, because technically you're no longer just advertising in your local paper and expecting people to come to your league. You're most likely, this I did on a whim. I really did, because of this class, and I was all like, you know what? One day, granted, you know, however this goes, if this were to grow into something, then cool beans, and I'm able to promote my store, and guess what? It's relevant. And then it's not only relevant, but maybe one of you guys, you know, is somewhere in the United States and you want to go to a league, and maybe someday I own a store where you can go play at the league, and maybe you like my personality, and that makes it better, because then you're coming to the store and you're dealing with my awkwardness because that's what you wanted to do. But overall, you have a community that you're gonna feel safe with, and that's my goal. That's what I'd like. That's what I would want to make sure that people feel when they come into my store. It's the place where you can be yourself and do your due and play the games and have fun and make friends, because that's what we're here for. That is literally why I do what I do, because I have this magical tiny dream in the far distance of my mind that a store could be possible, people could have fun. And I don't know, I get to sell my really cool older stuff and feel like a cool bean, because in high school I thought it was really awesome when people had those EX Dragon Frontiers packs, or base set, or fossil, and at the time that was literally like, what, however old I was plus a year old. And so it's like, when I was 10 and I was seeing this, those packs were 10 years old. Just like Hidden Fates will be in 2028. Oh jeez, time's going by fast. But the point is, it still remains the fact that these technological forces are stuff like this, where there's social media, where there's, you know, YouTube, which is able to provide this video anywhere in the world, and then be like, yeah, people can share in this entire experience. And then at a store level, I just have to be able to adapt and be like, hey, you know what? Even though brick and mortar sales apparently make up like 84.3% of your sales, in the future that might change, because people don't necessarily want to go to a brick and mortar, and that would make me sad. But the fact is that you have to be able to be open to then making your own website, selling on different platforms like TCG Player, eBay, whatnot. Now there's the drip something. Like, geez, so many things going on that you just have to learn and adapt to, and be happy to adapt to, because it's the world and it's changing, and people will want to do things differently every single stage of the way. And the best thing that you can do as a business provider is maybe, yeah, measure the efficiencies. Is this worth my time right now? Right now, yeah, this is kind of, I'm doing this for the class thing, for my future dream, also because, if I get used to talking about this stuff with you guys, then maybe when I do my presentation at my graduation business plan, I'm able to do it more confidently. I'm able to do it with the fact that I know what I'm talking about or how I'm saying it, and maybe I stop saying Honestly, I haven't said in a while. I think. I hope. Anyway, the point still remains that, that was sort of my technological front, where I need to be able to discuss all of these changes within the industry, but I don't see things changing as far as the main things are concerned, which is the experience that you're there. You're still going to be dealing with the person. I don't see that going away for this type of thing, because while it's cool, it's very niche. It's very niche that you go to that special Pokemon store or somewhere, and you have the robot experience, but I'm not sure if you'd play there. I'm not sure if people would do that. And if you would, then cool. Tell me in the comments. It'll be fun. Sociocultural, I think, well, at least within the area, I don't see that being an issue. I know that technically in some cultures, people see games as a big waste of time, and so in those cases, maybe those markets aren't as willing to spend their discretionary income on trading card games and hobbies and things like that, because they want it to be used in more practical uses, and that's also fine. It's the way of the world, but I'm going to be writing that in, and I have to do research on the other ones. I did get away with telling my teacher, though, by the way, or I asked her, I'm like, by the way, how do you see politics affecting Pokemon? And she's like, politics, Pokemon, that doesn't really mix, it doesn't really end up going boop, boop, boop. But in reality, I kept thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, I guess there's nothing. But there is a lean towards that legal and regulatory factors, because technically, well, I guess we have our printing company here in North Carolina, I think. But we could essentially, if we were importing, there would be additional fees, and how that affects the market. Does it make things more expensive? Because even though we have the print company here, maybe we need the foily thingy paper from Japan. We need it from Thailand. We need it from here or that. And, tariffs go up, then does that affect the entire process? Does that increase the MSRP? Would Pokemon increase their MSRP so back to back because, they just changed it, and blah, blah, blah. Those are things to consider, and so that's also relative to the whole economic factor and how that might be affected. But yeah, and then the key factors for success in the industry, in my mind, it's really to maintain relevance and to maintain a connection to your community, especially if you want a brick and mortar to survive. You can't just be like, yeah, I have the best prices of the entire valley. That's awesome. But if people don't like you, and if people don't enjoy the environment that you provide, or if you don't have an environment to provide, because maybe you're in like a grungy, downtrodden place in the neighborhood, which doesn't make everyone feel safe, and then it's like, oh geez, you're losing part of your market because people don't feel safe when they're over there. And I want people to feel safe. I want people to feel like they belong. I want people to feel all these positive feelings, because that's what I felt when I went to my first league in Salem, and it was a pre-release, and I felt lost because I was newcoming to all of this, and my friends had more experience playing and socializing, and I was a turtle. That was the best part of it. I was a turtle. I was like, please don't take me to people. I'd rather had stayed home. But I went to the league for the pre-release event. We signed up, and you go in, and they ask you if you have a Pokemon player ID. I did not, and they made the process easy. They were laughing and having fun with each other, and I got the card, and then the event happens. I think I only ended up pulling an A-Spec gold potion, which was nice. My friends pulled a full art Landorus EX, which was like the best card of that set. Another one got a Keldeo EX full art. Someone got a secret rare that was really good during that time too. But the point still remained that the event ended up being about like 20 to 30 people, and despite the amount of people, you knew you had a group. And not just that, those groups were always willing to like make friends with other groups. So it wasn't like everyone was cliquish and so everyone was like separated within a community. They were a community. And that is, I don't know, in my experience, you know, you join all these clubs, because I joined every single club that was out there, but the experience was always individual to a point. You did leadership conferences and cool, but you had your class group, and maybe you made friends with certain ones, but then maybe you didn't, and so then it's like, meh. Speech and debate, same thing. Like robotics, same thing. Math and science, same. But you had your group, and so I always felt comfortable having my group. Well, in Pokemon, I meet these league leaders too, and oh my god, Mr. Raichu is a hoot, and he is loud, and he is like, rah! And you know, everyone gets excited, and that's something that I ended up taking for my own league too, because despite the fact that I was a turtle, I was gonna make people feel comfortable, and maybe scared, but comfortable. I don't know. I had fun in every single position that I've had in the Pokemon community, and so I would hope that the key success, you know, factors of success, and you know, I'll also go into the fact that yes, I will promote advertising, and I will make sure that the location is clean, and I will provide a variety of items so that everyone can enjoy. Yes, all of the business type things, yes, but the key and heart of it, I think, is the people. And I'm also going to strive to make sure I can say that in a way that doesn't make my teacher puke, because she hates the whole mushy, Anyway, have a beautiful day, guys. Beautiful Saturday, or I guess when this video is on, it'll be Tuesday. Have a beautiful one. Be safe. Take care. Bye, guys.